Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all listeners to our midweek hike.
Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well, let's get right into the stories while I enjoy my morning cafe brew.
Oh, what are you going to enjoy today?
Blackberry tea.
Oh, delicious. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for telling my son and his fiance I won't pay for the wedding if I can't invite some family members? Throwaway account. I, 54 female, have 3 kids. The one pertaining to this post is a 26 male. We'll call him Caleb. Caleb has been with his fiance Ashley, 26 female, for 4 years, and they recently got engaged. I have offered to pay for their wedding with 2 stipulations. 1. They use a wedding planner. I feel this is essential due to the size of the event and the amount of money going into it. 2. I have 8 people I'm inviting, older relatives that I'm close with. They both agreed to a wedding planner and said they will look for one that they feel comfortable with. The issue is Ashley does not want me to be able to invite anyone. Caleb knows the relatives well, but is not super close with them, and Ashley has only met them a few times. The wedding is going to be a very large and grand affair. She comes from a very large family, and we have a very large family. We're expecting 300 to 400 guests, and I've given them a budget of $150,000 United States. Caleb says he doesn't care, but it makes Ashley uncomfortable since she doesn't know them that well, and it's her day. Her family is saying that I am the a-hole, even though they aren't willing to continue financially. I don't care about any of the other details of their wedding. Whatever they choose is fine, as long as I get the 2 things that I want. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edit, the 8 people are my aunts and uncles. They helped me a lot with the kids. We don't come from money. I was in a severe car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. With the lawsuit money, I made some investments that turned out to be very lucrative. Without their help between watching the kids and financially, I would have been up Schitt's Creek without a paddle when my kids were younger. Am I the a-hole?
Good story to start Wednesday off. No, she's definitely not the a-hole. If you can't find space for 8 people in your 400-person guest list for your wedding, what? That's really what comes to my head is Ashley, though, the bride-to-be is, what? So why would you have anything to say over, especially when you're not, and your family is not the one paying for this? When you drop that number on me, $150,000 for a wedding that your family nor are you, Ashley, paying for, you actually don't have a right to have almost any say in this thing. If that's how you're going about it. Don't get me wrong, it is, in her mind, it's her day, so she's already looking at that pretty poorly. It is their day. These were important people to his family as well, because it sounds like those aunts and uncles were pivotal in making sure that they weren't destitute when it was rough. So Ashley, very small-minded, I think, in this situation to, even if they don't mean anything to you, understanding that they meant something to your future husband's family. Yeah, that's a little bit of dropping the ball, especially when you're sitting there going, yeah, pay for everything. We're going to invite 300 or 400 people, but I don't like those 8 that you want to invite. All right, cool. No, you're definitely not the a-hole. Stick by what your stipulations are, because that's a lot of money to put into something that isn't really your responsibility as the mom. If Ashley wants to have her say in who comes to the wedding, then Ashley can pay for it. Like, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Well, I'll go ahead and I'll give you what Reddit has said. They also say that she's not the a-hole. What she's asking for is very little. She's giving them a lot of leeway to do whatever they want. She's only asked for 2 things, and it's relatively small. Now, she does provide some updates, 2 of them to be more specific. Let me go ahead and start with our first. I see a lot of people saying that she's a gold digger, but I do not agree with that. Her father is a very well-respected and sought-after criminal defense attorney in our area. Her mom runs an at-home business. Ashley is currently a surgical intern, whereas Caleb is an RN. Her parents paid for all of them to go to college, which is why they're not willing to contribute financially towards a wedding. I just got done having lunch with Caleb to talk to him about the conundrum we're in. He said that he hasn't spoken to her about what they've done for us in the past. He did not realize that it would be such a big deal for them to come and figured because of their age they would not want to come. Ashley knows the majority of the family really well because I host birthday parties for all 3 kids as well as the 4th of July barbecue every year. My aunts and uncles rarely attend the events that I throw because it's hard for them to get around. I'll update after Caleb gets back to me about their talk. Final update. Sorry it took so long for this. Caleb talked with Ashley and then they came over for us to all have a sit down. Ashley apologized and said she didn't realize the significance of them. She was concerned because they were pretty old school and like calm/relaxed and didn't want them to have an issue with how they want their wedding. Her family is known for throwing huge bashes. Think of the Sweet 16 from the Bratz movie. They always go big and very flamboyant and eccentric. We throw large parties, but ours are more country bonfire, hamburgers/hot dogs, barbecue, lawn games, etc. Just wanted to say, a lot of people are harping on the amount for the wedding. Yes, I am fully aware it's a lot of money. They live in a house that Ashley owns. When her grandparents passed away, they gave her one of their vacation homes, which she sold and bought the house her and Caleb currently live in, which is near the hospital they work at. Caleb owns a house that I gave to him as a graduation present that he rents out for additional income. They both own their cars. I paid for his education and her parents paid for hers. They are debt-free and have their ducks in a row. I donate a significant amount of money to various charities: Ronald McDonald House, Make-A-Wish, Habitat for Humanity, and St. Jude's. I want my kids to get what I never had. My dad died from an OD when I was 16, and my mom passed away from cancer when I was 28. My dad bounced from job to job, and my mom worked 3 jobs just to support me and my brother to the best of her ability. My wedding was $4,000 and small because that's all I could afford at the time. I was planning on doing a bigger vow renewal for our 10-year anniversary, but the car accident happened a year before then. I felt so depressed at the time, I did not want to go through with a big event. For people curious, food/drinks, $70,000. $175 per person includes servers and bartenders. DJ, $6,500. Includes photo booth and light show. Photographer, $9,000. Includes 3 photographers and a videographer. Bridal party, outfits/hair/makeup, $6,200. Venue, $10,000, including tables, chairs, setup, and cleanup. Flowers, $5,000. Favors, $5,000. Decor, $8,500. Cakes and cupcake, $3,500. Wedding planner, $4,500. Dress, $18,000. Custom dress. She's purchasing a second dress with her own money. Them getting engaged was no surprise. They had been talking about it for a while. I think Ashley is a wonderful girl, and up until now, there has never been anything that has been an issue. The reason she hasn't spent more time with my aunts/uncles is she has a very rigorous schedule because of the internship. She said she will make sure she spends more time with them before the wedding and gets to know them better. Also, yes, she does know that many people. Just her relatives are 180 people.
Well, now that I've gotten the full story, Ashley sounds like a dope person. It just sounds like she wasn't given the full story on what those relatives on her husband's side were and meant to them. And she also states that the parties that they throw get a little rowdy and they're very flamboyant. And she didn't know if they would be coming because of their age. So I take back anything I said about her being a not so good person, because it sounds like, by all accounts, now that I've gotten the full story, that Ashley's a good person and she was just looking out for people.
It's absolutely crazy that the poster was able to provide us with so much details, but it's great. I love it. Well, now that we're done with this wedding plan, let's go ahead and start some house planning, shall we? For our next story, am I the a-hole for selling the house my brother and his family live in? Short and simple, I think. A few years ago, my brother needed help. I let him move into one of my rental properties and we did it all legal. Lease agreement and everything. Because I was renting to him at a break-even point, we agreed that he was responsible for all the maintenance of the house and yard. Well, he has 4 kids. and the hot water tank isn't enough for his family and he wants a new one. I told him to go ahead. He then proceeded to take the cost of the hot water tank and installation of that month's rent. I reminded him of our agreement. He said he wasn't making improvements to my property for free. I said that the old hot water tank was fine and he made the decision to replace it. Big argument, and I didn't want to fight, so I said that he was not allowed to make any further changes to the house without my explicit agreement. So he stopped doing maintenance as a protest. The house itself is not pretty, but it is solid. It is old, and the wiring in it was not meant for all the modern electronics we have. He wanted to add a new breaker box and run more outlets. I said no thanks. I cannot afford that since I'm not making any money on the house. He started getting bitchy about it, and the rent started getting paid late. I tried talking to him, but he said that he had to buy some stuff for the house and that he was low on cash. So I sold the house. While the house itself isn't great, it is in an older part of the city, and the property itself is 1/4 of an acre. Every time a house sells in the neighborhood, it is snapped up by developers and turned into multi-family units. Or one guy built a McMansion on his land. I know a lot of the developers, and I didn't even need to list the house to have it sold in less than a week. My brother found out when he was served with an eviction notice. He called me to ask, what the f***? So I told him that the house was causing me headaches and I had an opportunity to make some money and I took it. He said I should have offered him a chance to buy it. I said that he was having trouble making rent. How was he going to qualify for a mortgage? He said I'm an a-hole and that he has the money. He was waiting to make me an offer. I asked him if he had the money, why he was late on his rent. He started bad-mouthing me to all our family. A few of them took his side and tried to say I was being an a-hole. So I offered all of them a chance to clear his debt to me if they wanted to share their opinion. None of them took me up on the offer. My parents are on my side, and they said I shouldn't have rented to him in the first place. I feel bad for my sister-in-law and the kids, but I'm not going to spend the rest of my life subsidizing his. Am I the a-hole? Just to provide some clarity, the poster is his sister.
All right, so OP starts off doing a good thing for her brother, it sounds. Renting a house to him at break even, which means she's not turning a profit at all. She's literally getting enough just to pay what the mortgage is would be on that house. Nothing more.
Correct.
That's a really tough situation, and no renter, no landlord anyway, would knowingly sign that because that doesn't benefit them. Paying for a house you're not living in at this point. So you have no overhead for covering things like replacing the water tank or doing any maintenance on the house. Fine. Then they make an agreement. They go, fine, I'll rent it to you for this, but you are in charge of paying for any maintenance on this home and the upkeep. I think most people at that point, if that's what they're given, especially because of the way the market is today, you say yes. Because you're still, as a renter, you're like, I'm sure they got it for I don't know, you didn't say how much they were renting the house out for, but I'm betting it was a pretty good deal based off the market today. So that being said, I think the only thing that rubbed me wrong about the whole situation was she doesn't owe it, right? But it does tell you how, I guess, strained the relationship got. Was she didn't bother to give him any heads up about, hey, by the way, I'm done with this situation. I'm selling the house. You know, I understand that when they give, it was a 30-day eviction notice.
Actually, it was a 90-day.
Okay, wow. So they'd gotten plenty of time to get out. I'm shocked that he would go, yeah, I'm in charge of the maintenance and all this stuff, but I'm taking it out on the month's rent that I'm giving you. That's ridiculous. And in no place would that happen like that. Yeah, I don't think the OP is the a-hole.
Well, all of Reddit also said that she's not the a-hole, although you could definitely tell where there are people who are talking in the comments understand it from the landlord's point of view when it comes to how you've explained it. She's not getting any type of profit from this, so anything that she could use to upgrade the house, there's no overhead for her to do that with. And then on the other hand, you have a lot of people who have never, and from what I can tell, who don't have the experience of ever having owned a house to realize that as a landlord, the reason why a lot of them make a profit is, for one, a portion of that goes to them as is a part of their revenue, their way of living. But another huge portion of it is to make room for if there's any problems on the property, if the water heater does break, if they need to upgrade the electrical. In this case, there was no overhead for that to happen for the sister. So anything that would come out of her pocket. Now, the nice part is she does put into view some extra details. First, as I told you, the person that she sold this property to gave the brother 90 days.
Yeah.
Which is
That's
considerably more than what other people would do, because technically by this point in their agreement, he refused to re-up on the lease, and he was technically just a month to month.
Oh, wow.
So law-wise, he only deserved 30 days if you're talking about it on a legal standpoint. Additionally, the sister says that she's been helping them with this for 5 years.
Wow.
She's been dealing with him not paying rent for 5 years. And she actually said where many times she had to use their savings to cover for him not paying. And whether it's not paying on time or not paying at all, which is what had her put up her hands and just say she's over it.
Well, then I redact my statement about how it rubbed me the wrong way. Because with the full story, I'm understanding now that this was just something that over 5 years about late payments or not payments, she didn't know him anything, and she's right, she shouldn't have to subsidize his life. And then when he's asking for upgrades, even though he's not willing to pay on time, and then slaps you in the face and goes, well, you should have let me buy the house. You couldn't give me the money for rent on a monthly basis in a timely manner anyway. I don't owe you anything. So I can get where this whole thing why it's happened.
Now, some people asked about some details, like how old was the water heater? She says the water heater was 3 years old. The issue that the brother that apparently had with this water heater is that for the big family, because you have the brother, you have his wife, and then you have 4 kids. That's 6 people that live in that house. So the water tank just wasn't big enough to shower 6 people back to back. So they'd run out of hot water. And you should, in my opinion, sort of stagger your showers if that's the case. But the water heater was fine. It's just that it wasn't big enough. So it was more of just a luxury rather than a necessity.
Sure.
The same thing with the electrical wiring. She says it wasn't like the best. It wasn't the most amazing electrical wiring. Her brother wanted to update that to as more of a luxury. It wasn't that things were just breaking down and that it was unsafe. So clearly you have where the brother wanted a better lifestyle that essentially it sounded like he wanted it on her dime, not his own.
It sounds like he got away with a lot for a while.
The thing that I come back to is if he was the one to own that mortgage payment, when you own that house, you own everything with it. There's nobody to help you. Otherwise, the bank takes your house.
Everything comes out of your pocket at that point.
So I feel for the poster because you have a lot of backlash of people who are renters and who see it from a renter's point of view when you deal with bad landlords. In this case, it sounds like it really, I mean, don't get me wrong. They both could have, this is one of the reasons why you don't go into business with family unless you know nothing bad's going to happen. But it's such a hard 50-50 on something going sour.
Well, this one's pretty clear though. He has been doing that for 5 years. It isn't like it was a couple months out of a year things got tough. This has been habitual.
Well, let us continue on to our next story, and I kind of want to delve back into weddings again. Am I the a-hole for refusing to spend my money on my stepdaughter's wedding? There's an edit at the beginning of the story that says a person by the handle sick of racist stepdad is pretending to be the stepdaughter and is not the actual stepdaughter of the story. So I would be careful if listeners go into the comments and see this person posting.
Wow.
My wife passed away when my sons were 8 and 4 respectively. Since then, I remarried, and my new wife and I have been married for some 11 years now. She herself was married before and had a daughter of her own from her own past marriage. Her ex-husband's story is its own saga, but suffice to say, he's alive but isn't in their life anymore. When we married, my bio children were 13, son, and 9, son, and my stepdaughter was 12, stepdaughter. For 11 years, I tried to make some bridges. I would get her gifts and try to make sure she always got what she wanted. I did everything I could to make her happy. I would drive her to school, be at her extracurriculars. I paid for the nicest private schools for her I could. Not to mention, I worked day and night so I could give her the lifestyle she deserved. My wife is a housewife, a choice she made after she voluntarily quit her job in marketing. I tried my best and treated her just like my sons, but she continued to hate me. This came to a head specifically when my stepdaughter graduated about 5 years ago. While my eldest son had invited my wife, his stepmom, to his graduation, my stepdaughter refused to invite me. She had 2 tickets, but she only invited her mother. Her grandparents refused as they live in my wife's native country. When I asked why, she said, "You're not my dad, you didn't raise me, and I don't want you in my life." I was heartbroken. I tried very hard for her to like me, but she hated me. Still, I paid for her college. I paid for both my sons' colleges as well. Nevertheless, a few months back, she informed my wife that she will be getting married. I only found out when my wife told me. What was even more devastating is that she said she would come home to celebrate, and I brought a cake and balloons and so much more. Then, last minute, she changed plans. She told my wife that she should come over to her apartment without my sons and I. I was shattered. When I did eventually call to congratulate her, she just tried to end the conversation as quickly as she could. The last thing I had asked was maybe the honor to have a father-daughter dance with her, which she had shot down. I said nothing, but then came the bill, and my wife said she needed some money for her wedding. I considered it long and hard, but clearly, as she didn't consider me as her father, I said I would not be paying for her wedding. I told my wife that she had money saved up. It was her choice to use that if she wanted, but I would not be paying for her wedding. She was furious at me. She said she barely had any money saved up, and I was being an awful person. I have received calls from all of my wife's family telling me I should pay, mainly her immediate family, like my father-in-law and my brother-in-law. The whole thing has become a mess. It has divided our family, but I am still holding my ground. Am I the a-hole? First edit. I want to be clear. I will absolutely be paying for my son's wedding when it comes. Second edit. I want to also clarify that this is going to be far from a minor financial inconvenience. While I am sufficiently wealthy, it is still not something that will not go easy on my bank account. My wife's family is Indian. Her ex-husband was Indian, and my stepdaughter is Indian. Her wedding is going to have probably around 400 to 600 people. Third edit. My wife has been an amazing mother to both our boys and our girl. She is a loving and doting wife who runs a phenomenal house. She tried to get her daughter close to me as well, to little consequence. I also do not think that I could be where I am without her, and certainly before her, I was nowhere close to where I am in my success. It is also true that my money has always been our money, and she does most of the accounting for the house anyway. If I do this, I would be doing this for her, not my daughter. Moreover, if she really wanted to, she could do it without my approval. More than half the money is in bank accounts with her name on them. Long story, involving bad business decisions early in my life, which gave me bad credit. If she wanted to, she could. She never has, and I do not think she will. If she does, that will be her choice, and even if she told me she was going to, I do not think I will stop her. Fourth edit. Some of you have DM'd me questions about my life. Yes, I do have one son with my wife. My wife had her daughter when she was quite young, 19, and we had a baby boy. It was not planned, and he is 3 now, after my daughter graduated. I wish to keep parts of my life hidden because they are not important to the story, but some of you have mentioned that this may be important to the story as it may have impacted my relationship with my daughter. I assure you, she was just as cold with me before the baby, and the event at her graduation happened before my daughter knew about the pregnancy. Am I the a-hole?
Wow, this story is
Deep?
Yeah, very. So it sounds like the OP is a very doting father. I mean, he's paid for the stepdaughter and his other sons private school. He's taken care of his wife. His wife sounds like an amazing person, a good mother to their kids. What I've been asking myself since you've been telling me this story is, what did he do? What was the straw that broke the back? Because it's almost as if there's no reason for from the outside anyway, from just his side though, there's no reason for the relationship to be the way it is. For someone who's been in her life that long, you'd think there would be some type of attachment or love,
just respect at least.
Not having him be a part of the graduation. That's where I'm trying to connect the dots, and it's that saying, make it make sense.
That's a good one.
It's not making sense. So what is he leaving out? Because her level of disattachment to her stepfather is on an unreal level, where she even goes to say it's not just him though, it's the brothers. She wants nothing to do with them because she said it. Mom, come over. We're celebrating that I got proposed to, right?
Correct.
Don't bring stepdad and brothers. What happened? There's more to that story, and it's very interesting. I mean, he even states it is like people are asking a little bit more detail because make it make sense.
Well, one of the things that he did tell us in the comments was the stepdaughter's father, I guess, has drug issues.
Okay.
And are no longer part of their life. But first, let's go ahead and hear what your verdict is for this.
Not knowing all the details and only from what he told me, I have to say that he's not the a-hole. But again, I don't know what would have started something that badly where she cuts off her brothers and her stepfather.
Well, Reddit does also say that he's not the a-hole. In fact, as I was saying, the poster gave us some more clarity that the stepdaughter's real father has some drug issues. And some people wonder if maybe she's got abandonment issues where you can't treat somebody nice because they're just going to go ahead and leave you anyway.
I can understand that, but he's proven throughout the many years and throughout all the doting when he didn't have to and everything, that doesn't make any sense. That's where I keep that. I don't buy that.
So let's go on to the update that he actually provided us with when it came to this situation. He says, after reading some of your comments and a lot of thinking and a long conversation with my wife and I came to a decision. Firstly, my wife understands where I am coming from. In the original conversation with my wife, I put my foot down without properly explaining my reasoning behind that decision. I was just angry and I should have communicated better. After explaining, however, my wife sympathized with me and said she doesn't know what the right thing to do here is either, but she said she'll do whatever I think is right. After some talking and thinking, we came to the following conclusion. For what it's worth, we will give her $50,000. This is more than plenty for a great wedding. It's less than a third of the $160,000 she wanted from us, and 1/4 of the estimated $200,000 her wedding was going to cost. Not to mention her fiance's dad is himself giving her around $50,000, between $40,000 to $60,000 from what he says. My wife also further informed our daughter that neither of us will be attending the wedding. This was a decision my wife made of her own volition. After informing her on the call, she came to our home to pick up the check. We told her that this would be the last money we would be giving her. She said that it was better we cut her out of our life anyway, as she didn't want me to ruin her new life. My wife and I were angry, but everyone held their tongue. She left, and she will no longer be part of our life.
Wow. This one's a rough story. Like, there's no happy ending in this one.
Unfortunately not. In fact, when it came to this particular update, a lot of Redditors were saying that she's essentially just using her stepdad as just a proxy. Yeah, just a proxy for money, and that's it, and that he shouldn't have paid. But our poster said he's a man of his word, and when he says he'll do something, that's just how he is.
Coming back is he sounds like a good person. Like, he worked hard to provide for everyone, to give them a better life. He treats his wife with a lot of respect. She has a say in that household just as much as he does, right? He was willing to let the mother go ahead and pay for everything if that's what she so wished, right? So there is nothing that pops. There's no red flags that I'm seeing. I just wonder how detached the daughter is in this situation, and like to still having treated everyone that way but still expect the money. Oh my goodness, this is some rare level. Like, I'm just very fascinated with this story, honestly.
It is a very different one.
Yes.
And he was kind enough to provide us with a lot of information.
More than he needed to.
Well, let us continue on to our next story. We're going to still stick with dads, though. Would I be the a-hole if I stopped giving my son driving lessons? My son is a learner driver and currently in driving school, and I have been giving him extra driving practice, which is something he wanted. Earlier on, he was sometimes too hesitant and lacked confidence confidence when merging on the freeway and changing lanes, which can be dangerous if you go too slow or check the mirrors so much that you stop looking ahead. I pointed this out, and he is getting better at it. However, at times, he still hesitates, and when he does, I would tell him he is driving like a woman. He had no issue with this at all and would correct himself when I said that. I did not mean it in a bad way. My daughter is a great driver, picked up driving naturally, and passed her test the first time. He got upset at me all of a sudden and asked me to stop saying that. I have no issue stopping with that remark and replacing it with something else, but I don't appreciate being lectured as if I am sexist when I was just trying to help him and used the phrase more like an idiom. My wife agrees with me and thinks he was being petty, but my daughter agrees with my son. My son and I used to talk like this all the time when he was younger, but lately he and my daughter have become closer and she is influencing his views. I think maybe it was wrong to say that, but not at full level since I did not mean it literally, and I am more bothered about how he lectured me and treated me as if I am a massive sexist than if he just asked me to stop. I have been happily married for many years and I am no sexist. I was considering stopping the extra practice drives and just letting him use his paid instructor. Am I the a-hole?
All right. So I guess for the dad, the OP in this situation, I guess there's really only one good way to put this. They're from a different generation of people, a time where it was okay to emasculate each other, especially when you're talking about men, saying things like, you're doing that like a woman. Regardless of what task it was, that in and of itself is only meant to humiliate and degrade you. He says here that him and his son used to back and forth that when he was younger. Well, guess what? Your son gets older. They grow, they learn, they take on new things. To say that he's getting influenced by your daughter, that doesn't make any sense. So your son feeling bad that you're degrading him in the middle of him trying to learn. He says that he feels bad about what he said, but he's upset about the way he was lectured by his son about what he had said. I don't know. I think sometimes you deserve it. If you have to get a different perspective, sometimes that's how it has to come, right?
I can definitely second that.
There's more than one way to look at things. So yes, I think maybe he's like, how dare you? You are my son. You do not speak to me like this. I know all. You don't know all. In fact, you should probably take that as a good learning experience for yourself going forward. Is just because it was okay at one point does not mean it's okay down the road. We're constantly learning what that is now, especially in society today. There's many things that aren't okay that used to be, right? So your son says it bothers him and he's just trying to tell you how he feels, and that's a better experience than him going, don't say that, and then you go, why, and him walk away from the situation. At least here he's giving you a clear definition as to why it bothered him. I get what the father may be a little upset that his son's coming to him as a man and confronting the problem, but you should respect that that's what he's doing now. He's growing, he's learning. At least he's not putting his tail between his legs and then just letting you have your way. I would feel proud that that's what you're raising. If he's giving you the information, then he's becoming an adult. So learn that your son, the boy, is becoming the man now, and he's trying to be honest with you. And I think honesty is what I think most people ask for, right? So
I think it's what most people ask for, but rarely what they want.
And that's true. That's a very true statement. But for me in this situation, I think he is the a-hole, and don't let your pride get in the way of good moments and memories you'll have down the road.
And growing. Well, all of Reddit does say that he is the asshole. And there's a few comments that I'd like to read just because I like their viewpoints.
I love comments.
So the first one, it said, you would be the a-hole. I copied. However, at times he still hesitates, and when he does, I would tell him he is driving like a woman. Before I read any further to make sure I called you out for being sexist, it doesn't matter if you don't feel sexist. Saying sexist shit makes you sexist.
Yeah.
Another commenter said, it genuinely baffles me when people, especially guys, say stuff like this because statistically, women are safer drivers. It's the same when guys say women take over conversations or talk more because there have been actual studies showing that men tend to speak/say more on average. These misconceptions should have died out years ago, and good on his son for realizing that early on. Also, there was some awards and the commenter thanked all the strangers for those awards. Well, now that we're done with dealing with some old-fashioned parents, let's go on to some family issues between some parents and a sibling. Am I the a-hole for calling my sister stupid and her husband shitty parents from the start because of what they want to name their kid?
Let me on the ride.
Okay, so just a little context because this topic is incredibly touchy for me. I am a man who was given a woman's name at birth. A good example is naming your son Alice. It's not what my name was, but it's close. My parents are hippies and gave their oldest son a girl's name to stick it to the man, and I will never forgive them for it. That name caused me to be bullied and damaged my professional life in ways I cannot describe. My sister is pregnant with her first child, a girl. She and her husband are ecstatic. It just sucks that she's inherited my parents' stupid propensity to see their children as fashion statements. Last night, she revealed to the family the name of her daughter. It's Crystal. Krxstxl. She wants to name her daughter Crystal. Confused, the name is pronounced Crystal. I already don't like that name, but it's at least appropriate. I was not surprised to learn that my mom helped come up with the name. When she told me, I told her it was a terrible idea. If she wants to name her Crystal, name her Crystal. She tried to explain to me why the X's are there, and I just told her it does not matter. She's naming a human, not a dog. I don't care what kind of fashion statement she's trying to make. This is a person who will have to live with that name until they die or has it changed. She and my mom brushed me off as just complaining because I was never able to accept my name. I told my sister she was being either selfish, stupid, or an incredibly strong combination of the two if she thinks her daughter will want a stupid name like Crystal. We got into an argument, and I told her I already see her and her husband as shitty parents for using their kid to be off-brand with her name and left right after. My sister is not taking it well at all, and my mom is furious with me. I'm starting to wonder if I was too harsh. I will not change my opinion on that incredibly stupid name, but I am wondering if branding her as a shitty parent was too far. Am I the a-hole?
This story is different. So, let's start with this. I do believe you are the a-hole for how you reacted to that and calling her a poo-poo parent. Man, we have seen some people name their children some funky things throughout the years. Yeah, they're trying to go for Crystal, and you're right, the pronunciation is like Crystal.
That's how I would read it.
But should that really matter? I mean, there's been plenty of people that I've seen their name and you pronounce it and they'll tell you how it's actually what they think the pronunciation is. And then what do? Do you call them how you sounded it out, or do you call them by what they say? And then you move on with life. Unfortunately, with the OP though, he's coming from a very, it sounds like he was teased hard. He had a female name when he was male.
Correct.
And unfortunately it sounds like he's a little older.
Oh, yes.
Older generation. So it was much different then than it is now. At the end of the day, there's so many, who's to say when a name is inappropriate or not, or the spelling.
You're not wrong.
I think the OP is definitely the a-hole, especially on the reaction part of that. Yes, it's ridiculous, but that's my point of view. It could be, and just like him, you can have that opinion, but to have thrown that on them when their announcement was literally just there for you to be happy for them, they're not saying anything outlandish. I don't know. I've heard so many crazy children names now that one is if that's the worst it got, then you're fine. So he's definitely the a-hole for having the overreaction to it.
Well, let me go ahead and provide you with the consensus of Reddit. They actually say that he is not the a-hole.
Wow.
And the reason why they say it is this seemed to have brought up a lot of people who apparently have problems with their names. The first one says, I'm so sick of this shit. Oh, it's pronounced Crystal. No, it isn't. Letters have corresponding sounds, and the letters OP's sister picked do not correspond with the name she is claiming. Not the a-hole, your sister sucks. Another person equated it to algebra, which I find funny because I love math. And for our next comment that I enjoyed reading, it says, I'm going to get downvoted, but as someone who changed their name the moment they turned 18, you're right. She is stupid, not the a-hole. It's horrendous. It's a horrendous name that will do nothing but get the child bullied. It's not unique or cute. Your child is not an accessory. I personally think stupid crap like this should fall under child abuse.
It's This is very interesting because you're getting people that have come from this experience. So obviously that's more prevalent than I think it was. I've never been a part of that. I've never seen someone get bullied for a name, but those people are speaking from experience. So I have to go with their interesting viewpoint because I've never had that experience because my name is very bland.
So I can understand because I have a unique spelling name where you get it mispronounced. Or I know when I was younger, there was a couple times where I was teased where I was told that I was spelling my name wrong because it was supposed to be a correct way to put it. It made me feel like I was dumb or like my parents were dumb because there wasn't like that conformed to society and how it was viewed.
And I can definitely understand how kids could be cruel with that type of information.
I think that's kind of where the OP gets his stance from. Mind you, as I've grown older, I have enjoyed the unique spelling of my name.
Sure.
I've enjoyed it through the people who have complimented me for it. But young growing up, it really hit as a sore spot until I was finally able to sort of grow into my own name. Now, not to say that everybody will grow into their name.
Sure.
As you can tell, OP didn't, and there's a lot of commenters that haven't.
From their youth, yeah. So.
I think a lot of it is, one, you should think about what you want for your child and how you name them, because the way that my parents spelled my name later reflected as I grew older to make me really love it.
Sure.
Just because they put a little bit more time, even though part of it was an accident on how it was spelled, it made for a good memory. When you're trying to make your kid's name a stance, I think it's a bad way to put it to it, because it no longer has a meaning to the OP for what his name was. For his parents to stick it to the man made it seem like you really didn't put a lot of effort into my name, you know?
Well, I can definitely understand or respect the viewpoint of people who have had to go through this situation. I guess we always laugh about when we hear some of the ridiculous names on the news and stuff like that, but you really don't, unless you're close to them or you're the person, get to see what that damage is. Especially, I mean, the OP is, your situation was much different versus the OP situation.
And clearly with all the other commenters who had a negative experience too.
That's definitely eye-opening.
Well, let's go from some apparently shitty parents and let's make our way over to another parent who seems to be trying their best. Am I the a-hole for ordering food when my children are asleep so I don't have to share?
Oh, yes, this is the parent I need to listen to today.
Occasionally, when my 4 children go to bed, I'll order myself a little something from Uber Eats or DoorDash after a hard day so I don't have to share with the kiddos. Usually, since I'm always the first one to wake up, I'll put the packaging beside the indoor trash can and take it out to the outdoor trash can in the morning. My children ended up waking up first that morning and seeing the takeout food packaging and ended up waking me up, asking me what I ate and if they could have some. I told them there was none left, and I ate it all last night. Thought that would be the end of it, but after I dropped them off at their dad's for the week, my children stay at their dad's house 1 week out of the month rather than just doing weekends. My children's father ended up spamming my phone with text messages accusing me of misappropriating my children's funds he sends every month. My children's father gives me $100 for each child a month, which is $400 a month, which when it comes to it, it isn't much, but I'm fine with it because he usually makes up with it by buying the children what they need when the issue arises. FYI, nothing is court ordered. I have a job as a daycare worker and use my own money I make myself to buy Uber Eats / DoorDash food. He also accused me of being a bad mother because I rather order food for just myself without thinking of my children, who were with me at the time, and that I should have just waited until they were with him for the night. I had a really bad day that day and just wanted to do something to cheer myself up, and sometimes food does the trick for me. If I were to order something for everyone, it would have cost a whole lot of money that I wasn't interested in spending, and if I were to share, by the time my food got back to me, it would have just been the food wrapper. So, do y'all think I'm an a-hole?
All right. So, for clarification, she has 4 kids that she watches 3 weeks out of a month.
Correct.
Okay. And she was playing the game correctly for a little bit, getting up before the kids to stash away the evidence.
Oh, yes. Can you imagine trying to catch the Uber Eats before they'd ring on your doorbell?
Yeah, you're just sitting there looking out, waiting for them.
Here he comes.
Yeah, so she was playing the game right for a while, I guess.
I bet you the notes section of that Uber Eats
Don't
or
ring on the
DoorDash says,
doorbell.
don't ring on doorbell.
I'll meet you at the mat. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure there's some crazy like instructions that people have had to go through to deliver things for people in these type of situations. But anyway, so we're asking if she's the a-hole for not ordering the food for the kids. She's being accused, though, by the dad of misappropriating funds.
Correct.
Which is heinous.
To go ahead and provide, the children are 2 males and 2 females.
Okay.
The older boys are 9 and 7, and it looks like the 2 girls are 5, so they might be twins.
Wow. So she's got a very young brood. She was never going to beat them to waking up every day. Kids that age get up early. They are always up before everyone else. So,
And mind you, she actually lives in New York.
Okay.
Which is expensive.
Sure.
Especially for 4 kids. For him to only be providing her $400?
He's getting off real good, especially because this is not court ordered. If this was court ordered, who? Anyway, I don't think the father in this situation has a right to accuse her of anything, especially when you're talking about misappropriating money for something that she wanted to do. Like, she already says it. She's not using that measly $400 you're giving her a month on her. That money that she's using is from her, I think she said she's a daycare worker?
Correct.
She's not using those funds from you to pay for her takeout. I think it's just a more funny scenario because I can imagine being the kid and looking at the thing at the side of the trash can and going, but where's my sandwich?
From what I understand, it was Chick-fil-A.
No! Those waffle fries. Anyway, I'm going to have to say no, she is not the a-hole, because the thing is, there's plenty of people, not just parents, just people in general, that have to do things for themselves that get them by. And if she says one of her things is to enjoy fast food every once in a while to get her through the tough day, what are we doing? Why is that an issue? I understand that some people might go, well, you should have got, if you got for yourself, you can get for the kids because kid menus are like no money. And I can hear that argument in the back of my head right now. Like, you couldn't have bought them a couple chicken nuggies or, whatever have you. It's Chick-fil-A at this point, but I can see the argument, but in my mind, I'm like, pump the brakes. If this is what she does with her money, right, that she worked for, that it's not excessive. We're not talking about someone who has an alcohol problem or all the other litany of things that people could be getting into.
$2,000 purses or
like there's so many
$300 shoes.
Things. If you're trying to make someone feel bad, what is the ex-husband doing over there not paying as much as he should be? Accusing her for $400. He needs to stop, because if she gets a hold of those comments in Reddit that you're about to read, she might go, you know what, Reddit? New York? 4 kids? $400? Oh, so he needs, because he ruined a good thing just now. And the thing is, though, she needs to fight for that anyway, because it does help take care of the kids. For going further, like $400 for a bunch of small kids might be okay right now, but the second these kids start getting into tweens, teens, no, $400 is not going to cut that. So he screwed up well, no, not a good thing. It's a terrible thing the way they've done it. There's a reason why those things are in place to help. I understand that they're trying to be amicable, and sometimes that can help when it's fair. I think most adults can tell you $400 a month for 4 kids, that's not cutting it. So for her, for sneaking away that tiny piece of Chick-fil-A and you to make her feel bad about that, you about to be paying little boy $400, bah.
Well, let me go ahead and let you know what Reddit says.
I look forward to this.
So Reddit says she's not the a-hole. In fact, there's a lot of parents out there that says, you can't fault a parent for trying to do something nice. Is it any different than when a mom has some chocolates that she hides in the couch just for her own little treat? Puts it high up on the shelf where she can enjoy it on her own downtime? It really is no different. If this is just a little something, especially when she's having a bad day, nobody should be making you feel bad for it. And she also provides a little bit more updates on, I guess you could say, the dynamics. So she says, yes, the children adore their dad. Every time they come back, they're always telling me stories of what happened at their daddy's house. But from what I hear, his girlfriend is usually the one that's doing the majority of the childcare while they are there. He's just super cheap when it comes to one of the reasons as to why I left him. For him to even indicate that he wouldn't take the children if I put him on child support just leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. It's not even something I'd personally want to risk because my children would be devastated if their dad stopped seeing them.
Wow, he's a very terrible person.
Oh, yes. From what she said, they live in New York. She said, I seriously didn't realize you could get that much for child support. He basically told me that if I put him on child support, there'd be no reason for him to take the children because he'd already be supporting them that way. I can understand why he is so pushy on not being sued for child support. Now it looks like our poster might be taking some corrective action.
I would hope so. And it looks like he was using his relationship with the kids to keep her from not do that. Is terrible. He's going, if I have to pay that, I'm not going to see them. And he knows that those kids love him. And he's using that against the mother, the OP in this situation. That is, woo!
It seems like he shouldn't have touched Mama Baby's Chick-fil-A.
Hey, man, just be fair. That's all I care about. I don't agree with like the absorbent amount where the other partner has to live out of a car just to get by. I'm not agreeing with that, but it needs to be amicable. And it sounded like it gonna be. Was that our last story? Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. And we will be regularly posting on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.